NurtureBoss is a lease conversion automation and renewal conversion automation tool for multifamily. And multifamily just means the apartment industry. It's kind of the fancy word we use to describe everything that encompasses apartment complexes and apartment buildings. So NurtureBoss is a tool that on-site teams use that are working inside the leasing offices to automate the follow-up process with prospects who may be interested in renting at those apartments, as well as the communication process with residents that currently live at those apartments. So on one end, we're giving renters a great experience because they get prompt replies, they get the information that they want and need in order to make kind of a smart purchase decision at where they're going to be calling home for the next year or years of their life. And then on the current resident side, we're giving them good information about the property, information about things that are happening at the property, events, updates, maintenance, things like that, as well as convenient tools to communicate back with the on-site team. And then for the actual management company that's running that property, we're saving them tons of time. We're creating efficiencies in their day-to-day workflows and making it a lot easier for them to be rock stars at what they do because of the automation that we bring to the table for them in terms of keeping up with all of those follow-ups and kind of resident communication that they need to be doing. NurtureBoss really originates from the renter side of kind of the apartment experience. I've never worked, on property in an apartment complex or in a property management company, but what I have done is lived in a lot of apartments. So I've rented a lot, I've gone shopping, I've toured, I've compared amenities, and ultimately signed leases at many different apartment buildings throughout my life. And when I started NurtureBoss, it was because I had just recently finished that leasing process, going through trying to find a new place to live. It was right before COVID became a thing. So we were still doing in-person tours, which kind of went away for a while. And it was really difficult for me to get the information I needed, to get somebody on the phone, to get my questions answered. And my background is that of a software engineer. So I'm convinced that there's tech solutions for all problems out there. And when I went through this experience as a renter, I started thinking about what I could do to make it better. And, that eventually evolved into the product that NurtureBoss sells and, eventually into the company that is NurtureBoss. So, kind of like I mentioned, it was right before COVID became a thing is when I got this idea for NurtureBoss, right around February of 2020. And then in March, the pandemic happened. And what a lot of us in the tech world realized pretty quick was that this is actually going to become an accelerator for adoption of technology. All of a sudden, businesses across the globe needed new methods, tools, and technology to have those relationships, communication, and business processes with consumers without having to actually be there in person with them. So I kind of decided to just forge ahead and keep building the company. We got our first paying customer in May of 2020, and then have just kind of been going ever since. Growth has been awesome. It's been really exciting. Things are going well. We went from just me as the founder and, obviously no growth when you're first starting to today where we have 9 employees. We're closing out 2021 with 200% growth on our revenue. So that's super exciting, and things are looking really good for us over at NurtureBoss. I think a couple come to mind immediately. NurtureBoss brings this idea of automation, follow-up, and resident follow-up automation to multifamily. This idea of automating communication is not new in the world, but it's very much a new idea in kind of the niche space that we build our product for. And this has caused us to be somewhat of category creators in the apartment industry that we're in. And understanding that there is a large education piece to selling our product has been a lesson that I learned early on, and we got very good at it. And it's something that we, not only overcame, but really is a part of our ethos now, is to really be educators for new technologies in the space within multifamily. But in the beginning, that was definitely a hurdle that we had to jump over. And that's kind of what comes to mind when I think of hurdles that we came to on the business growth side of things. And I think the other thing that really came to mind pretty quick is just around building a team. Now we have some great employees at NurtureBoss. Everybody here is a crucial part to our success. We've been fortunate that we haven't, had a bunch of run of folks that didn't work out. The folks that are with us now have been with us since the start. But understanding that it takes a different type of person to work out a startup, right? And I'm not talking about your 50 employee, 5-year company startup. I'm talking about your 5 employee, 5-month startup, right? And that's just a whole new ball game and takes a whole new type of person to be successful there. And understanding how to identify, find, and hire those people was definitely a challenge in the beginning as well. But again, something that I think we've kind of gotten some experience in and gotten better at as the time's gone on. I'd say the best thing that we've done to contribute to growth is to get really intentional about our target audience or our ICP or ideal, person that we want to go after to sell our product to. In the beginning, it's really enticing to kind of go after the world and try to sell it to anybody and anything that will give you the time of day. But when you're building a software product and specifically a subscription software product, selling to the right person is important because if you don't provide value, you're not going to keep that person as a customer. And if you're growing rapidly on the front end, but then you're dropping customers off the back end, then you can't achieve that kind of rapid growth that you really want to see as a startup. So really early on, narrowing down who our ideal target audience for our product is, and then aggressively going after that specific niche within the niche, if you will, has been really, really great for us. That's allowed us to have quick expansion and cross-sell within our customer base, as well as really great customer retention rates. And that's something that I'm happy that we did early on and think contributes a lot to the growth that we've had. Yeah, so I was initially introduced to Startup AZ from a different founder in residence there, Colin Turner from Postscript. And Colin and I worked together back when we had day jobs in a previous life. And Colin's a great guy, and he's been a real mentor to me throughout this process of starting NurtureBoss. And I would call him kind of late at night, multiple times a week, to tell him about all the problems I'm having and help that I need. And he was really gracious to give me a ton of his time while he's working on, growing his incredibly successful company. And he initially introduced me to Startup AZ and to Brandon and was able to make that introduction. And I kind of just have kept the conversations going from there and was fortunate enough to kind of get into the most recent cohort that they kicked off. When you're starting a company, you need as much help as you can get, whether you realize it or not, right? So the more exposure you create for yourself to mentors, experts, or just folks that have walked that path before, the better it's going to be for your success. Your individual growth as a person by having those mentors, as well as the growth of your business by having those mentors. And that was a real big draw to Startup AZ. I'd say the biggest one, though, that supersedes even that first that I mentioned was the idea of being able to kind of commiserate, if you will, with a bunch of other CEOs that are in the same shoes that I'm in. When you're a CEO of a startup, you are in this unique position where you don't have anybody to complain to. You can't complain to your investors or express your concerns to your investors because it's your job to keep them confident that you're the right person to, invest their money in and bring the business to success. You can't complain or express concern to your, because as the leader, you need to be endlessly optimistic, positive, and have a great outlook on the future. You can talk to folks in your personal life, but they probably haven't started a company before and don't really understand what it is that you're going through. So you find yourself in this kind of black hole of nobody around you to really bounce fears, ideas, hopes, wishes off of. And Startup AZ solves that problem in a big way because all of a sudden you're exposed to this network of dozens and dozens of people that know exactly what you're going through, have no stake in your success, financially at least. So there's no concern sharing that information with them and have great feedback and advice for you that is, beyond helpful and kind of working through all of the speed bumps you hit along the way. Is seeing that become a reality, right? Actually leveraging everything that I just said. So, we're all on Slack together, and, I have myself or other founders will randomly, go into the channel that our group is in and ask a question. Sometimes it's really, hey, what software are you guys using for HR? And it's real, to the point, businessy and easy to answer. But sometimes it's like, hey, I'm not making enough time for my significant other, and I'm worried that it's damaging our relationship. What should I do? Right? So the spectrum of questions that get asked and answered are amazing. So it is the same answer as a previous question, but the difference is that I'm seeing it actually be a reality, right? I'm getting to partake in that both on the asking for help and providing help side of things. So seeing that it, is everything it was promised to be is very gratifying and something I've been excited about. Exciting, crazy, busy, and fast-paced 2022 is what's next for us. So, we grew a lot in 2021, and I want to do that even more, bigger, and better in 2022. So we're talking about releasing new products. We're talking about generating more revenue, hiring more employees, and all eyes within the company are focused on the end goal of where we want to be as a business, come 12 months from now. So a crazy year is what's ahead for us at Nurture Boss. I mean, the number one, without a doubt, piece of advice is start building your network. Start going to functions, go to events, talk to people, put yourself out there, send emails to people that you don't know and have never heard of you. Do whatever you can to build as big a network as soon as you can. That's gonna fuel your success in a lot of different ways. If you decide to raise money, you're going to have those connections you need to get in front of investors that you would get that money from, whether it be angels or VC, whatever kind of fundraising you decide to do. As you start to hire folks, it's going to give you the connections you need to find those great candidates that, kind of like I alluded to earlier, are a different breed, if you will, than your kind of day-to-day 9-to-5 type job seekers. As you're starting to try to understand how to grow your business, deal with all of the nuances that come with that, you just won't be alone. You're going to get to talk to other folks about it. So what I'd say, my number one advice is definitely to start growing your network as fast as you can, and it's on you to do that. You need to get your out there, put yourself out there, start meeting people and building those relationships.